And so it's like a day or two later, or 2 days later. You know, after the holiday festivities are kind of over, and I got some time to go and do some more work on the Mopa. And figure I'll go over and start hitting all the tune-up components on it. So I quickly went and yanked and looked at the cap and the rotor and points and all that kind of stuff. And they got wear on them, and nothing's failing, but they have, you know, hours on them. So I figured I'd change them. I grabbed the belts off, took the belts off of it, and I figured we'll grab a new set of those and some other miscellaneous change oil and that kind of thing. So I went shopping, got all my components. The worst of everything was probably the alternator belt. It's kind of skinny, don't it? It's supposed to be the same width. It's supposed to be the width of that. And again, what happens with belts is they don't stretch really. What happens is the V part of them just gets skinnier. So the belt wears on the side, and then, you know, it just sits further and further down in the groove, which allows it to seem like it's getting stretched out, but essentially it's just getting skinnier. Let's see if I can do this. Yeah. There's the replacement belt. And I'm going to set you down. If you flip it over, it's really where it kind of shows. You can see how much is left of the corrugated compared to the other one. So definitely, and what I'm going to do too after I change all the parts and components out is I'll take them, I won't put them back in the boxes or anything, but I'll throw all that stuff in a little care package. Generally, all my old cars, they keep like an old-fashioned toolbox of sorts in them, and I throw the old stuff in them just in case that I do have a failure somewhere on the road. I have the stuff that I replaced it with, you know, essentially tune-up and belt issues, you know, wipers and all that kind of crap. No. And the other hard thing to try and go find is the original wiper blade styles, you know, with the old metal bodies on them. They were different sizes than the modern ones. I was lucky to find replacements for them. They didn't have anything, and they went back in the old stash, and they did find some skinny cartridges. They'll fit. Skinnier or fatter? I'm not sure which way it goes. I think actually the new ones are skinnier than what these are. That's what it is. So I was able to find them. And of course, just the regular stock air cleaner. This has been on there forever. The black part of the foam was deteriorating. I first peeled that off, figured we could run it like that, and then I just decided to just grab a new air cleaner. Standard size, 14 by 3. Somewhere I had a whole air cleaner assembly still in the box. I went looking for it, but I could not find it. But I didn't exhaust all my avenues, but we're going to run with that. And again, I think that one was sitting for a while too. There's the dirt that's on the box. Not too many cars run that style of air cleaner anymore. And then just a plethora of oil filter and oils and some iced tea for me to keep me going. And some carb cleaners and brake cleaners and all that for douching out some areas that need to be done. So I think what we're going to go jump on now is I am going to make it so that I can crank it over, and I already have the fuel filter off of it, and the fuel line is open. There's the steel line hanging right there, and that guy. So I want to try to capture some of the fuel that's coming out of it, and I want to take a peek at what color it is and how nasty it is, and from there I'm going to decide whether I am going to fill the tank up and just dilute what's there, or purge that right out of there. So let's go get that set up and see what our fuel looks like. All right, let's see if we can go crank some into that cup. Let's see what it looks like. It's yellow. It's definitely showing its age. Taste it. Smell. How's it smell? Yeah. I think I'm not sure. The only reason why I'm kind of a little iffy with right now with not running that is because if I'm going to try tuning it, I want to try tuning it with good fuel in it, you know, setting everything up and how it responds. It just seems like a lot of dirt is kind of settling into that. Anyway, I'll decide on that later, but we're going to go jump and knock out a bunch of components and go from there. I don't know how the camera's going to pick this up, but I just want to show the old points and the new ones. Here's the old ones and then the new ones. On the old ones, it's pretty corroded. You open them up, you can kind of see a decent amount of wear on them. But generally what happens to points more than anything is where the cam rides, which is right here. It's like a nylon type material that rubs on the cam, and you're supposed to put a little bit of grease on there and it keeps that tab from wearing away. And if you look at the new one, it actually has a little pad here that kind of helps maintain that grease over a longer period of time. And if you look on the old one, you see this dust that's down here? You notice it's actually the same color as the brown material that's up there. That's actually that little pad wearing away. And what happens is, as that wear, your point gap closes more and more and more, and causes you run issues or tune-up issues because you're losing your point gap. So I just want to point that out, and also point out that you got to put a little bit of grease on the cam lobe, a little bit. And you don't want to go crazy. You don't want it splashing. And this area needs to be very dry, and this area just needs to be enough for the cam to, again, not take out that little tab on there. So we're going to go set those new ones up in there and set them up. The hardest thing of changing points on anything is the screw that wants to fall out, and one of the tools is one to point to is one of these guys. It's got a magnet on one side, and it's a clip for holding screws. They make them in Phillips and regular. This is the screw that holds the points. So you see the tip of that. When you push down on that, the center of it turns to the side and it locks the screw on there. So now you have the screw without trying to, you know, fudge your way down in there. Nothing worse than dropping that sucker down into the lower bowels or under the car or whatnot. So I just want to show you what I'm going to be using to put those points in. And let's get that sucker in there. This is the wire coming from the distributor. And we are looking for that cam. Slide over that. And then that's your adjustment. The play that's in there is your adjustment for your point gap. And there's our little funky tool. And, we're going to kind of set that up just so it has drag on it, because we still have to set the point gap. And the condenser has to go on the same way. Condenser goes right over on this side. It's the same idea. That one screw kind of holds it. No adjustment on that. Just kind of sits fixed into place. And then we have to run the wire from the distributor and the wire from the condenser back over and just tighten that nut up. So I figure while we're here, we'll go do a little more talk about distributor stuff. And one of them is some distributors have vacuum advance, mechanical advance, combination of both, neither. All depends on what the machine is that you're operating, whether it be a mower, a tractor, a car, a bike. On this, there's a mechanical and a vacuum advance. The mechanical advance is underneath the distributor. It has a set of weights on it. As the distributor spins, they kick out and cause the center to move, like you're just seeing me springing that a little bit, and you can kind of feel the bounce and the retention of the springs on that. So that's kind of a quickie test, but we're going to look better with a timing light later on. The other is the vacuum advance, which is this canister, and this canister has this hose hooked up to it, and I'm just going to suck on the other end of it. You see how that's moving? That's the vacuum advance side of things. If you're able to draw air through that and it just keeps going and going, there's a diaphragm inside here. That diaphragm has gone bad. So what I see right now, the mechanical advance seems okay and the vacuum advance seems okay, as far as at least they still turn and function. If I turn this and it didn't spring back, or I should put the rotor on it. Anyway, if you have the rotor on it, you can usually put the rotor on it, spring, and you can feel it returning. If it just goes one direction and stays there, then your mechanical underneath is binding, and then you would pull your distributor out, and it's not too bad to get to those, but mine's okay, so I'm not going to tear it apart. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see it, but I'm going to now turn it so that here's where the cam lobe is, and the tit on the points, and I want to get that guy high centered on there so that I could set it. So I put the belts back on it, and I'm going to try turning the fan to get that to be at its high point. You can kind of sometimes watch the points itself. I think I'm past it just a hair. We're going to go around to the next one. Come on it right there. Looks pretty good. I think I, again, might be past it by a hair. So now I'm just going to go and take a feeler gauge. See if I can do that with you guys in the middle there. And we are looking for 17 thou down in between there. So that's way too big. And what there is, let me get a bigger screwdriver. Hold on one sec. Just drag on that screw. So it kind of holds the points where you want to hold it. But on the back side of it, try to keep my hand out of the light, you can stick a screwdriver right down in here and you can affect how far they're open and closed. See that? You can tweak it just till you get the right number. The right drag. Still way too much. It'd be a lot easier if I was where you guys are. Yeah, guys, move, you're in my way. And if I had any other issues with the distributor, I would have pulled it and done it all out. It's a mixed bag whether you want to pull the distributor or not. All depends on, sometimes if it's in the front of the car it's really easy too, but sometimes the distributor can be a bit of a bear to get out and you cause yourself some other problems. So too much. And close right there. The thing is with points though, you gotta really be careful because there's not much drag. You know, doesn't take much to open the point, so sometimes it could fool you that you have it. Meanwhile, you're just literally opening the points. That looks actually pretty good right there. You want to make sure you're coming straight up and down at the points, because if your feeler gauge is on an angle like that, you're also going to have a misreading. So that's got it. And you also got to watch when you tighten the screw down. Sometimes it likes to walk, so you got to double check yourself right after. Alright. Now if you can see it in the back side, let's see. With a little tab now. That made it all the way to the bottom. A little tab right there is what I'm looking at. That's the thing that's going to hold the grease for you over time. So you want the points as dry as possible, and you want this with a little bit of grease on there. So I'm going to go take care of that with the rotor and cap. I don't think you guys need to go see that. You get the general idea. Put the cap on, change one wire at a time. Keep that from losing your position. I'm going to go find my wrench. That's all back together. Now I got to fire it up and warm it up, and then we can kind of set the timing. And I want to warm it up and change the oil too, but I want to do it with the oil hot. See if we can do a reaching and start. So I'm going to let that run for about 10 or 15 minutes till the the choke kicks off, and the motor kind of comes up to temp a little bit, and we'll hang a light on it and we'll see what it looks like. So I figured I'd have the car off for a second so you could actually hear what I'm saying. You could tell that I took a white mark. That's a 0 on the crank. It's a little sloppy, but you get the idea. And then the other white mark that's on the tank sticking out of the motor, that's 5 before top dead center. And where the hole is in there, that's 0. So at an idle, with the vacuum hooked up in the mechanical, that should be set right at 5. Optimal, let's say. You can kind of tweak it one way or another if you have any issues. But what I'm also going to do is I'm going to rev it up, and you should see that line increase with and without the vacuum. I'll plug and unplug the vacuum line, and you'll see the line jump from one to the other. But it should still be on the mechanical. You probably get about, I don't know, 10-15 degrees out of mechanical, and then maybe another 10 or 15 out of the vacuum. So it should rev up probably to about where it is, maybe even a little further down, right about here. And then when I unplug the vacuum, you should see it jump to someplace in the middle of the two of those, and that just tells you that your mechanical is working and your vacuum is working. If I disconnect the vacuum and it goes right back down to 5 degrees, then you know the mechanical is not working at all. If I unplug it and nothing changes, then you know the vacuum is not working at all. So I'm going to do all that, but it'll be over engine noise. You guys can see that sometimes timing lights don't like cameras. Anyway, you can kind of see the two white marks are close together, but I'm probably more at closer to 0, probably about 2 or 3 degrees. So I gotta bump it a little bit. But I'm gonna rev it up, and we'll see if that mark kind of drops down. You can see that mark moves right off the scale and moves down about 2 or 3 inches. Now I'm gonna pull the vacuum line off of the distributor. Kind of see how it only moved half the distance. That's what I'm talking about. So that's the mechanical advance you're looking at right now. That's how much mechanical you're getting. With vacuum, without. Now what I can do, if I want to find out what the total advance that I have, on the back of my timing light, I can adjust it so that I can dial it right in so it's at that 0 mark. So I'm going to hook the vacuum back up again. I'm going to rev it up, and then I'm going to adjust my timing light. So it's roughly the same place. So my total advance, see on the gun, is 45 degrees I have. Total between mechanical and vacuum advance. So I'm not quite sure what the spec is on that. It does seem a little bit high, but if I have an issue, I'll look into it. If not, we're going to leave it alone because they're both working. So that's how you guys are set up. To hold the time like in my hands. So we got a clamp with a clamp holding it, and then the bean bag over here is what you guys are holding the camera down. So the only thing I need to talk about, back up, I tweaked the timing, so I'm right on the money now, so I'm right at 5 before. The only thing I need to talk about was dwell, and dwell is how long the points stay open for, or how long they stay closed for, according to how you want to look at it. But you know, the dwell, how many degrees it stays open on each pulse of the cam lobe. And pretty much if your point gap is pretty close, your dwell should be pretty close too, because you adjust your dwell by your point gap. The more the points go into, here's a little tit on the cam, the more you have the points open more and more, run into them, the longer it stays from side to side on the cam, and the longer it stays open. And going the other way, the smaller gap you have, the smaller the dwell is. So you can set the dwell on it. More comes into play with like dual point distributors, where one set of points is overlapping the other set of points, and that kind of thing. This being a single screw Point distributor, not so much. A lot of GM stuff uses that. You'll be able to tweak it. You got a little window you can kind of open on the side of the distributor cap, and you can kind of tweak it while it's running and set the dwell. But again, for the most part, you just need to set the points when you got a single screw set up like this, and you should be fairly close. So I just want to add that to it. Well, the topic I wanted to kind of go over, I don't know if I did or not, was why do you have mechanical and vacuum advance? The reasoning being that at an idle, everything is pretty much set. You're trying to make the fire start just a little bit before the piston is ready to push down the other side and start the combustion to happen. Well, there's a slight delay in that. You make the spark, but then the spark takes a second for the fire to grow and expand. So the faster the engine is running, the faster it needs to happen. So it has to start the process earlier and earlier, and that's what that advance does. It just starts that process earlier and earlier. And one is tied to engine RPM, which is the mechanical advance. As it revs up, it gives you that part. But the other part is, as you floor it, you have more fuel entering, and so you also have to start the process faster because you just have that much more material that needs to be combusted. So that part adds to it. So they kind of work in conjunction with each other at high RPMs, but the vacuum is kind of tied more to the carb, your gas pedal position, than what the RPMs are. Does that make any sense to you guys? So I decided I'm going to go run and put some gas in it. There's very little that's in it now anyway, and I figure I'll put some nice high test in it, and we'll run to dilute what's there. It's still pinging real bad, but I'm chopping that up just to the crappy fuel. So we're going to go top off the tank and see if that makes a definite improvement on it. Hey, we got 13 gallons of the good stuff in there. Uh-oh, something's going on. And it's pinging less and less, but I got to try to get it run through the system. I'm only about a mile, if that, from the gas station. Yeah, it's already better. So all that pinging was due to that. And I didn't want to try tweaking the carburetor yet until I had some better fuel in it to see, just to set up my air fuel mix for my idle. And if it idle's okay now, I'm probably just going to leave it alone until I run a tank or two through it, just so that I know I'm on the good stuff. 93 octane mixed with the 60 octane that was in there, so I'm probably around 80 or so. It's got a full belly in it now. Gas tank didn't fall out too, that's a good sign. If I get a little bit of it's rush hour right now. If I get a little bit of clearance, we'll kind of rev her a little bit. A little sluggage. So I rode it about 5 miles. The engine seems fine. No more pinging. But we got another issue. I'll show you in a second. Does it show? Think them brakes are hot? So, I think we got some wheel cylinders that decided to give up the ghost. That one's okay. This front one was noisy too. That one's fine. That one's fine. I don't know if I want to stick my hand on that one though. That one's not fine. Well, that's why it was a little doggy. It was dragging its ass. So I guess I gotta go address that, huh?